What's up everybody, I'm Sam Light and today I'm going to give you a full review and breakdown of the 2019 Slingshot RPM. But first I want to try riding my skateboard, flying my drone, operating this camera all at the same time. Whoa, is it following me? Keep up with me, drone. This is multitasking right here. Enough of this rubbish, let's get into the review. I went to Cape Town to test the RPM because it's definitely the best place in the world for big air. So the first impressions of the new RPM is really good actually. To have so much more beans to it. I just did my first kite loop and it felt really good. And normally a 10 can be a bit scary, but this 10 went around really nicely. So first 10 minutes, 2 thumbs up. The very first RPM came out 10 years ago. Now, I wasn't actually riding for Slingshot at the time, but I just remember it being the benchmark of performance bridle kite. Back in the day, it had pulleys. Then it changed to the IRS bungee system, which had no pulleys. And that was for freestyle, really. That was for the riders trying to win the World Tour, when the World Tour was really big. And now, over the last couple of years, there's been a real resurgence in big air and jumping. It's just got windy, so I'm going to continue this video at the beach. Going for a quick hydrofoil. I thought it would be a good opportunity to show you the bridle. Slingshot actually brought in a new designer, and him and the current design team bashed their heads together and came up with the Line Bridle. Now, the Line Bridle is actually the first of its kind. It's basically a differential bridle. Normally when you turn most pulleyed kites, one side engages and the other side sits idle. The pulley travels as far as it can and then actually becomes ineffective at a certain point. When this happens on the Line Bridle, the IRS bungee engages, so when I'm doing a kite loop, both sides are engaging to help maneuver the kite, which gives you extra response and feedback at the bar. You get that direct shift of power from one wingtip to the other wingtip. So if I send a jump, go upside down, and suddenly steer it the other way, I can really feel that power shift, and it makes a big difference doing big air because I know exactly where it is in the sky. Those big wide wingtips on the RPM are there to just catch all that power, and you really feel it in the new one, more so than the old one, which actually gives you the best of both worlds. I'm getting considerably better boosting and hang time, faster kite loops, and I'm really impressed with the high-end stability of the kite. It wasn't flapping around, it was just solid. The small compromise with the new one is that it doesn't quite slack as much as last year's, but I haven't found it hinder my performance at all. I've still been able to do my handle passes. The cool thing about the new one is it's still got all the characteristics of the RPM that we know and love. It's so easy to use, but it has this extra gear. It has more beans. Let's take it down the common on my skateboard. I actually only live about 2-minute skate from the beach. I live in Portsmouth, which is on the south central coast of England. Some really good kiting, but just not that consistent, but it's a good place to travel from. Portsmouth's actually a really cool city with lots of old buildings, and this street's really cool. Look. Got my RPM on my back. Whoa, whoa. That's a car. I'm going to pump up the old RPM, the new RPM. I'm going to compare both bridles and have a little fly. just pumped up both kites. I'd like to add that it's really important to get the right pressure in your kite. A lot of people's kites I launch on the beach are really soft. You want to pump your kite up to about 10 psi. That's pretty good drum sound. If you flick it, it should be like... That actually probably could have done with a couple more pumps, but it makes a big difference for big air if your kite's pumped up enough. So make sure it's pumped up to at least 10 psi. Straight out the bag, you get the kite on the beach. The first thing you notice about the different bridles is how much simpler the new Line Bridle is. There's no confusion of which way round it goes, how do you set it up. It almost doesn't matter how you pick up this pigtail, it just flips itself how it's meant to be. If you want to do big air, this 9 meter is the one. Nowadays at the King of the Air, we pretty much hold on to our 9 meters for as long as we can, because it doesn't often get that windy. And we've just learnt to ride 9 meters in almost anything, like up to 40, 45 knots. Another feature that they've introduced in the 2019 RPM is the D2 Dacron. If you look closely at the trailing edge here, they've introduced that for the longevity and durability. I'm going to give you a quick rundown of what knots I use. Okay, 9 times out of 10, I just use the N knots. It's a really good all-rounder. The kite's been tuned and refined so much already that you don't need to mess around with these. On the rear lines, the steering lines, I always use the N knot, the furthest away from the kite, no matter what. On the front lines, again, I use the N knot, but if I think I'm going to be really overpowered, I might bump it up 1 or 2. Wake style and freestyle, which you can see right here. These settings change the kite quite a lot. If you're doing big air, I would always select it on the freestyle setting because it's the fastest, most responsive and has the most hang time. If you put it on the wake style setting, the kite will sit back in the window a little bit more, be more direct but less responsive. So it's much better for grabs and handle passes. I will always use the wake style setting in the smaller sizes if I'm doing handle passes or grabs or park or anything like that. I'll have it on freestyle for any kind of big air, free ride, because the kite performs the best on the freestyle setting. The other knot I need to talk about is at the trailing edge of the kite. Here you've got 2 knots. Here on the side you can see plus and minus kite feedback. The pigtail at the end of the kite will give you the fastest steering kite, but less feedback and less bar pressure. The inside knot will give you more feedback but slower turning. For big air and free ride, I will always use the trailing knot. For park, wake style, freestyle, I'll use the inside knot to slow the kite down and make it less responsive. I'm getting a little bit chilly, oh, the hovercraft's coming. Check out how cool this hovercraft is. This hovercraft is one of, I think it might be the only commercial hovercraft in the world. It's really cool. It goes over to the Isle of Wight in 8 minutes. Very expensive, but very cool novelty factor. I think I've covered all the knots, my setup. If you've got any more questions, let me know. I'm going to go home, edit this up and get it online. Peace out. To summarise, Slingshot have brought the RPM into a more free ride, big air realm. If you've never tried an RPM because of its unhooked nature, then I think you owe it to yourself to try the new version because it's a completely different beast. Thanks a lot for watching. I'll see you next week in 2019. Yep, I'm going to try and make a video every week. I've had a lot of fun making these ones, so subscribe and look out for more content coming very soon. Cheers!